Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gives in the Bank Recruiting Podcast brought to you by BuckeyeScoop.com. I am Marc Givler, joined again as always by Bill Greene, Kevin Noon as well. We're going to have a three-guy conversation here about recruiting. Going to be interesting. So we just did the kind of a reaction show to the coaching movement. That was our last episode. This one's going to be more of a real-time update on a few topics. We've been on the road the last couple weeks. Kevin and I were in San Antonio for the All-American Bowl for a week. Bill spent quite a bit of time in Florida checking on a bunch of targets. So we're going to talk about some of that. We've got a few other things we're going to discuss as well. But we'll dive right into that. Bill, Florida. First of all, did you set any records, any new low scores on the golf course, or were you actually working down there?
A little bit of both. Playing a lot of golf and actually did a lot of work too. So yeah, good reports on both ends. I would say both fronts were positive.
Hitting it straight down there.
Playing well, playing pretty well.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
All right.
Pretty happy with the play.
Okay. You talked to a lot of guys. You got a lot of insight on. I mean, the content you were getting down there was fantastic. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. We've got several guys I'd like you to talk about here. Let's start with Brandon Inniss, big time receiver, top 100 guy. I believe some services have him a 5-star. American Heritage receiver. You know, Ohio State was in the mix. Committed to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's, we know what happened there. Lincoln Riley left. The whole thing got blown up. Guys decommitted. Guys are transferring. Inniss opens it back up. Ohio State's got a second chance. How is Ohio State doing right now on their second chance with Brandon Inniss?
Yeah, they're probably either the favorite or co-favorite with someone. I guess I would probably say maybe Alabama if they make a move. Brandon was really sold on Oklahoma. And the thing people don't realize is Brandon's got a lot of buddies. Jaden Davis went there, Mario Williams. So they had a good South Florida connection there. Well, that's all blown out now. And Mario, I expect, who's kind of Brandon's big brother, even though he's smaller than Brandon, Mario go to USC, I would guess. And I don't see Brandon going to USC. And more importantly, my guys down there on the ground, they don't see Brandon going to USC. And that, Florida State, Florida, Miami, I don't think any of them are in on it. For Brandon, I think it'll come down to Ohio State and Bama. And the thing is, with that South Florida Express 7-on-7 team, they've sent guys to Oklahoma. Recently, they've sent a ton of guys to Alabama. Surtain, Ja'Cory Brooks, Josh Jobe, Daniel Wright. They've sent a lot of guys there to Bama, but they've done well with the Ohio State guys too. And Hartline getting hooked in with that 7-on-7 crowd down there. I mean, those guys love him. And you can go watch the video that I did with Ricky Williams and Geno Smith, who are my boots on the ground guy in Miami. And, they both described Hartline as the face of the Ohio State program. So Ohio State is in great shape with Brandon Inniss. And this is a weird thing where almost like Jameson Williams, depth chart might work against Ohio State here. And the Alabama depth chart might look a little more appealing for Brandon. So we'll see. Brandon, his support system is very, very positive with the Ohio State staff, especially Hartline. So Ohio State is in great shape with Brandon. Got to get him back up there one more time. I expect to see him for camp in June. It would be nice to see a spring visit, and I don't know that anything there is planned yet. And Brandon, I don't think is going to drag this recruiting out till signing day either. I think Brandon could go quick. I expect to see him committed before the first game of his senior year.
Yeah, a lot of my Inniss stuff's kind of coming from you the last couple of weeks. I never gave them a great shot the first time around. I just never felt he was coming despite a lot of the hype around him in Ohio State early on. And you're you're starting to convince me a little bit that the second time could be a charm here. Going to be really interesting to see what, we always kind of joke about this on the site. Is like, Nick Saban doesn't start recruiting until October. He may not be
Right.
able to wait until October on Brandon Inniss. He may have to get involved in May, but that'll be interesting. That's always interesting. Is like, when's Alabama going to make the big move? But
Right.
yeah, it's funny.
Right.
It's Ohio State's got the more loaded receiver depth chart, as we saw really the last week or two, when we saw Ohio State's offense without their top two receivers, and then we saw Alabama's offense without their top two receivers. So, gonna be interesting race. There was another. I think the biggest thing you brought though from down there, because I think, great insight on Inniss, and I think a lot of people are curious about how that's going to go. But the Cormani McLean stuff you brought back from Florida is, to me, a game changer. If this can actually be a thing for the Buckeyes, 5-star corner, boy, looks a lot like the Jeff Okudas of the world, the Jaheim Singletary type guys, those big athletic corners. What did you? I guess first of all, what did you think of McLean? I believe you got to saw. I believe he worked out. Maybe he did. If he didn't work
Yes.
out, you can
Yes.
kind of punt that one. But what did you think of him physically? And then, again, what are you hearing about Ohio State there?
Well, him as a talent, as a recruit is off the charts. I mean, he's legit 6'3". He's not a 6'1.5" kid that you're trying to sell me as 6'3". He is 6'3". He's got arms that stretch across the field. He's got hips. He's got speed. He's unbelievable. I mean, I think, if someone wants to tell me he's the number one recruit in America, is he Justin Hunter? I don't know. Or I mean Travis Hunter. I mean, he might be. I mean, he's that good. I mean, he was someone I was blown away with. I would compare him to, when you see Sonny Styles and you see him go through drills and he's like, oh my gosh, that's the way Cormani is. But when you see him do these things at 6'3" with these arms that are dragging on the ground, it's unbelievable. He's not developed yet. He's very raw, but and he's not the typical Florida kid. He's a very quiet kid. um, Hard to get him on the phone for college coaches. So I think he's going to want to make his decision and be done with it. I don't think he will be the opposite of the typical Florida game player that makes 3 or 4 commitments and you don't know until signing day where he's going to go. This is not Cormani. Cormani is shy and kind of backwards, and he doesn't like this stuff. And if you can be somebody that gets him on the phone, which Heartline already has. Um, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. I mean, you're going to have to beat Georgia. You're going to have to beat Alabama. They're going to have a proximity advantage over you that they can have somebody at Cormani's school all the time. So we'll see how this goes. Ohio State is absolutely in it. I talked to the kid about it. He is so excited to come up in March. That trip is planned. It's set. And then, I expect to see him back on campus again in June with that South Florida Express contingent that'll come up for camp, and you fight it out and you battle it out. But they're in it for sure. Now, I'm not saying he's a lock to Ohio State, but this is not smoke and mirrors. This is not a game player. This is not Kristen Miller talking to us, telling us how much he likes whoever. This is a real honest kid. He really, really likes Ohio State, and they haven't even built the relationship part of it yet. That's what I like about this. He's going to see Ohio State twice, before summer's over, and the relationship will now start to be built with Heartline, starting it off much of the way he did out in Washington with Ibuka and JTT. And then you kind of handed JTT off to Larry Johnson. This one will get probably handed off to Ileana or Walton, with Heartline still in the mix, and they're in it. I mean, they're absolutely in this one, and I would do whatever I had to do to get this kid. We don't see, Jeff Okuda was just an unbelievable player. He was tremendous. He was not 6'3" with these kind of arms. This kid could play both ways. He could play wide receiver. But I think he's smart enough. He's one of the few guys, Mark, that every time we see these type of athletes, they always want to be receivers. And we always say, why won't this kid play corner? Not this one. This kid knows where his money is. His money is going to be at corner. He knows that. So I'm as excited about him as a raw talent as I have been over any kid in Florida for, a long, long time. This is an amazing, amazing physical specimen.
You know, you're kind of describing to me, and maybe not so much as a recruit because he wasn't a super highly recruited guy, but kind of what we know him as now. Is it sounds like Sauce Gardner to me.
Yeah, and I think maybe the potential is
And,
probably higher for Cormani.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
and I think
Cormani's
Ohio State's
unbelievable.
got someone that might have some familiarity with Sauce
Yeah.
Gardner
Yeah,
now,
yeah. I mean,
so that might
this
be a
kid's
nice
unbelievable.
little connection icebreaker.
Yeah, and the fact of the kid's personality is the opposite of that of the typical Florida superstar that I've dealt with for the past 15 years. I've dealt with them all those. This kid's not like that. He doesn't like the recruiting game. Like most of these kids love the recruiting game in Florida. They live for it. Not this kid. So Ohio State is in position so well right now. And then to get the kid on campus in March, get him on campus again in June, get him for an official visit for the Notre Dame game and then take your swing and see where it goes. I'm not calling him to Ohio State. I'm just telling you they're in it.
I think probably the last one here. You did get a chance to catch up with Cedric Hawkins, who
Yeah.
committed. Was that, is that mid Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Right.
It was
Yeah,
Committed.
that was
early
crazy.
mid Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was trying like I knew I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, mid Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Didn't
He did
know who
tell
his
Ohio
coach was going to
State.
be, but went in there
Dude,
anyway.
yeah, that's Tony
Yeah.
Alford. Tony Alford did the recruiting there. Tony sold him. It had nothing to do with Barnes or Combs. That relationship was strictly with Tony. He did tell Ohio State, Ryan Day, that he was going to commit. And they totally gave him the okay to do it. I don't think they knew it was coming during the Rose Bowl, and I don't think he really intended to do it in the Rose Bowl, but he had his edit ready to go, and he just did it. But they knew it was coming, and they're happy to have him. I like Sed a lot. Sed is an old school kind of kid. He's another one. He is not the typical Florida loudmouth, commit today, take visits tomorrow, decommit, commit again later. That's not Sed. Sed's an old school kind of guy. I like him because when we saw him in camp last summer, I was not high on Cedric Hawkins. They offered him. I thought it was a token offer because he made the trip up from Florida, and you're trying to recruit J.J. Smith, you're trying to recruit Brandon Inniss, JoJo Trader, and he was the fourth guy in that group, and that's how I looked at Sed. Well, at the time, he was 5'11" and 165 pounds. He is now 6'1", 180, and he's a different kid. So what I didn't like about him in camp was his size. Well, that's been taken care of now. So, and Sed is an old school guy. He could play the deep safety that Bryson Shaw plays. He can play the Ronnie Hickman spot. He can play that nickel safety spot where he's covering a back or a tight end or the third wide receiver. That's what I like about Sed. He's so versatile. You watch that film, and he is going to come up and put a hat on somebody. I know he had over 100 tackles last year as a junior. So the question is not whether he can come up and hit, it's whether he can cover. And then you watch him in 7-on-7 going against the receivers in Florida and Miami that he has to go against, and he can cover. So, and like I say, this is an old school kid. He drives 2 hours and 45 minutes one way to get to the South Florida Express team. Okay, so this is a kid that wants to compete. He wants to play. He's fired up about this stuff. He wants to get better, and he knows playing 7-on-7 against Brandon Inniss and these guys, J.J. Smith, JoJo Trader, guarding those guys every day in 7-on-7 is going to make him a better cover person than what he is now. So there's so much to like about Sed from a work ethic point of view. And now that he's 6'1" and not 5'11", I like him a lot better.
Yeah, that was kind of a game changer for me when you came back, or I think you were down there when you said it, but when you were down there and you were like, yeah, he's actually 6'1" now. Because again, I don't think he's a guy who's going to win the combine, the Spark score or whatever.
No,
Um,
no.
so at 6'1", 185 versus 5'11", he even made a joke about this on Twitter. Stop, asking the recruiting service to update his height and weight. 5'11", 165 is that's a hell of a difference. So
Yeah.
that's a game changer for me. Um, Probably a little different in terms of what they did in high school. The guy I'm about to mention was a corner in high school, but I think everyone knew he was going to be a safety. But the way you talk about him reminds me a little bit of Jordan Fuller.
Yes, yes, and I think he's got a little bit more raw athletic ability than Jordan did, but he's going to have to take the same path that Jordan did. Said is not Cormani McLean from an athletic, physical freak ability standpoint. That's not him at all. He's going to have to outwork people, outthink people, um, be the smartest guy on the field. That's who Said's going to have to be. Now, and when you say that, people think, oh no, he's a horrible athlete. No, he's a really good athlete. He's athletically he's fine. He's not a freak, but you don't have to be a freak. I mean, he's going to have to be the hardest working guy, the most intelligent guy, the film watching guy, which I think that's who he is. I think that's who he wants to be. And he plays so hard, he competes so hard. It's really hard to root against a guy like that. Guys like Cedric Hawkins succeed on a far higher level, a higher ratio of those guys succeed than the Cormani McLean guys who are just so darn gifted physically, that God just blessed them. You see more of those guys fail than you do the hardworking work ethic guy that is just going to kill it every day and competes like heck. So, I think Said probably has a lower floor than what Cormani would, but Cormani's got a ceiling that reaches, as high as you can imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of why I threw the Fuller thing out there because Jordan Fuller's not, it was funny. Jordan Fuller played that deep safety position extremely effectively, but he wasn't doing it with the same tools that Malik Hooker had, well, physically. So
No, not at all.
it's different ways of getting the job done. But I mean, how much if as an for the Ohio State fans listening, how much would you have given to have Jordan Fuller back there this year? For
Oh
example,
my God.
so if Hawkins is that type of guy, I think people are really like, oh, it's a knock on him that he's not this, like, well, it doesn't have to be a knock. I mean, like I said, Jordan Fuller is not a 4.3 guy, he's not a 40-inch vertical guy, but through good athleticism combined with tremendous instincts and intelligence was able to be very effective there. And so that's kind of what I hear when you talk about Cedric Hawkins. It's like, well, that's kind of
Yeah.
how I viewed Jordan Fuller over the years.
Right. Right.
So,
And I did want to mention JJ Smith too, that sophomore wide receiver, the 2024 kid.
yep.
Um, JJ has also grown an inch. Well, he was really good at Ohio State's camp. He was fine. I mean, that was a guy that was a no-brainer take. They love him. Heartline's recruiting the absolute heck out of him. But JJ has grown an inch or an inch and a half since Ohio State's camp. And JJ is probably in the 6'3" range now, at 185, maybe 190 pounds, and he is nowhere near developed yet. He's a high school sophomore. 2 more years of high school to go. JJ will be, I think he'll be what I saw in the Rose Bowl out of Marvin Harrison. I think that's what JJ is going to be. He can run, but that body is just going to be really, really special. Where you look at, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Olave and Wilson, they're unbelievable. They're first round picks, but they don't have that big, strong, physical body. And that's what JJ is going to have. JJ is going to be Marvin Harrison, a kind of guy that you throw him the ball because when he's covered, he's open. Okay, one on one, he can be covered. Don't worry about it. Just throw it in his area. He'll out-strength the guy, out-tough the guy, and make the catch. And JJ can also run. I mean, JJ is a 4.5 guy for sure. So I was super, super high on JJ Smith. Loved him in camp last year in June. Like him even better after what I saw last weekend. JJ will be a 5-star receiver.
Now, did you get a chance? Were JoJo Trader or Earl Culp there?
Yeah, JoJo Schrader was there. JoJo to me is probably going to be the fifth or sixth receiver in a 4-man Heartline class.
Yeah.
I like JoJo. I like him a lot. I'm just not. I don't know. We'll see. Is he going to fall into the Anthony Brown category where, gosh, we like him. You can't take them all. Now we'll see. We'll see. JoJo could, he could come to camp here in June and just totally blow it up too. I like him. He's a Power Five kid. He's a high Power Five kid, and we'll see. We'll see where this ends up for him. But I think JoJo could be a guy that maybe, God, if they continue to recruit at the level they're recruiting at, JoJo might be the fifth guy in a 4-man class.
Well, we just kind of talked about this a minute ago, and so I guess that was a good segue into what my thought here is. I think JoJo should be a defensive back.
Oh, no argument for me. No argument for
I
me. Yep.
I
Yep.
saw him. I mean, I saw him at camp obviously in June, but I was down for their like youth, not youth, they're like their underclassmen tryout for their, I don't know if the B team or the
Yeah.
15 and under, whatever it was.
15, yeah.
Um,
He would have been 15U then. Yes.
yeah, but he was playing up, so it might have even been 16U, but they had him because they had him playing up a little bit. But anyway, it's kind of irrelevant. But anyway, um, I watched him play both during that tryout, and I'm like, it was kind of what you're describing to me. It was good receiver, but I watched him like, man, that'd be a heck of a defensive back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I
Is
don't
he
know.
Gary and is
Yeah,
JoJo Gary and
I think he could be.
yeah.
I think he could be. I think he's a really good. I think his length and his athleticism are good.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I think he could do that, but yeah, we'll see. All right.
Yeah.
So Kevin and I, while you were in Florida, Kevin and I were in San Antonio for the All American Bowl. Kevin, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You good luck. Yeah, here we go. Good luck. It's gonna be a very difficult question to answer. Your top 2 or 3 Ohio State guys from the event.
Um, I think that Caden Curry is somebody that I was so impressed with. I'd heard so many things. Oh, he's undersized. He's undersized. I've not gone out to Indiana to see him before, so this was the first opportunity that I had to see him in person. Guy was unblockable. He just had a way of making plays. I didn't get to watch the game. I was there all the way up until the day of the game, flew out early, so I don't have the benefit of the game to go off of, but all of the one-on-ones, he just was a monster. If I'm going through the rest of the list, I really wish I would have had a chance to see more Jair Brown because, I saw him on the Tuesday on day one, a lot of just drill work. I mean, he just looks very impressive out there. Then he got his positive COVID test, and that was that for Jair. Um, I'm a big fan of Kojo Antwi. I think that the receiver out of Georgia could end up being the best of the 4, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there between any of those 4 receivers of who may end up being the best. But I just felt that he looked really comfortable out there running his routes, his catch radius. I mean, he made some quarterbacks look pretty good out there, making catches that were not necessarily the most routine. So I really liked what I saw out of Kojo as well.
Yeah, for me, Caden was the star of the week from the Ohio State perspective. From perspective of Ohio State commits and targets. There was not a day I saw him. I believe I saw him every day. I did. I was at least one West practice every day. There was not a day I left thinking he didn't make an impression that day. There was not a day that I left the football field thinking that, man, Caden Curry was quiet today. It never happened. He was noticeable every single day. Had a great game on Saturday. Just from start to finish, one of the very, very best players there the entire week, period, of the 80, 90 guys, whatever it was that were there. I think, they probably want to put 10 or 15 pounds on him before they throw him to the Wolves in September, but I think he could be in the rotation. I really do. I think he could sneak into the rotation this year. I think he's polished. He's very hardworking. He's versatile. He can play really probably 3 of their 4 defensive line spots, depending on the situation. So for me, he's a guy who could definitely play early. I really liked Devin Brown. especially he had a great week of practice outside of like a 5-minute window where he threw 2 interceptions and was clean the rest of the week. Had a bit of a tough game with the offensive line breakdowns. Um, I think they're getting a really good player there. Um, I I love Keon Grays, and I'm gonna kind of double down on my prediction there of there's a I think their games are a little bit different, but there's a trajectory there that's very similar to that of Jackson Smith and Jigba, where he kind of starts out as like a 3-star, high 3-star, low 4-star, whatever, and he slowly inches his way up, and before you know it, he's at the All American Bowl, being one of the better receivers there, and um, I would have Jackson a little bit higher. Like when we were rivals, and I was just, why is this guy not a 5-star? And then I give credit to Sam Spiegelman over there, who kind of took over that position later in Jackson's recruiting process, and eventually elevated him to 5-star status. So I credit Sam for doing that. But that whole time for about a year there, it's like, this kid's a 5-star. Like he's better than Fleming. He's the best guy they got in that class, and it became very apparent by the end of the cycle that was the case to me. Um, I see a little bit of that in Keon Gray. Again, I would have Jackson a little higher. I don't know that I would quite go 5 on Keon Gray's, but I think he's a top 100 guy. Um, I think he's a better athlete. I think all of the great things we saw from KJ Hill are Keon has those things, and I think he's a better athlete than KJ. And sign me right on up for another KJ Hill. I mean, that would be. I think everyone would sign up for that. So I really really like Keon Grays, and he had a good week. It wasn't a dominant week. Like I thought he kind of dominated at the opening a little bit. So I wouldn't say it was a dominant week, but he showed a lot of really good things, and I thought he was consistently very good. So those would probably be my guys. And then I was talking to Tom Moore on the morning scoop a few days ago, and another guy who caught my attention, surprised me a little, was George Fitzpatrick. I think he's, if I had to gamble on a guy, you got the 4 offensive linemen in that class. I don't know that I'd want this question asked with a gun to my head, but if you put a gun to my head and you said, who's the first rounder in this group, I think I would be inclined to pick Fitzpatrick. I think he's got the highest upside. I think he's a true tackle with a great frame, length, reach, all that good stuff. Great feet, a little more developed physically than I thought he might be. So he was kind of a pleasant surprise for me.
The depth
Not maybe
issues
not.
they had there, though, they had everybody playing
Yeah,
everywhere. That was kind of
yeah, like
crazy.
tough position for him. Him and Hinsman both kind of got a raw deal just because of the situation there with the numbers, where Hinsman's playing center. He's snapping. So he plays guard in a triple option offense essentially, and he's doing shotgun snapping in an all-star game, and then he's trying to block these monsters on the other side, and that didn't go very well in practice. They eventually got him over to right guard. They got some reinforcements in there somehow and got him over to right guard, and that worked much better. But there's gonna be I think a learning curve there, coming from the triple option offense in rural Wisconsin to playing guard in a more pass happy offense. But I liked what Fitzpatrick showed. And then Bill, you and I have talked about this a lot. Tegra, for you, Bill, isn't this all about Tegra's body and like all about his weight and his desire? I mean, to me, that's what's going to dictate how this goes for Tegra.
Yeah, I agree. He's not in shape. He's carrying too much weight. He's either going to get it or he's not. And you come in with Mickey Marotti in that program. Plus, you're coming in right now to a program where Marotti's had his group's toughness and intensity question. This ain't gonna be fun this winter, and I don't know if Tigra's coming in earlier. It ain't gonna be fun in winter conditioning. The puke buckets will be out at Ohio State, and that's going to carry over through summer and into fall. So Tigra's either going to get it or he's not. And Tigra in shape, I think, is a heck of a player. I'm not sure he's the tackle. He might be. I don't know. We just haven't seen him at the right weight. So there's a lot to like about him as a run blocker. I think he needs a lot of work in pass protection. I've seen people mentioning him as a possible 5-star. I don't see him that way. But until we get him in the optimal weight and conditioning program, it's kind of hard to know what you got there. So I think Tigra's kind of got one foot where it should be, one foot where it shouldn't be. And I think Mickey Marotti, it's going to be make or break. You're going to get it or you're not. So we'll see. Like I say, I think my overall feeling toward Tigra is probably a little lower than what I thought it would be at this point when I first saw him. So we'll see with him.
Yeah, I don't know that the improvement from like sophomore, junior to senior has been there. But the All American Bowl is kind of a microcosm of what I've seen out of him over the years, which was we would see a really good rep. He had a really good rep that Kevin got on film that I didn't even see live. I saw Caden Curry get him a few times, but then Kevin came over and said, "Well, he did get Caden as well," and I got the video of that, which will be on the site this week. So yes, will he buy in? Because what I would do, and I think Clemson did this with Jackson Carman, is I would treat this like almost like a basic training. And my goal would actually be to make him quit the team by summer. And if he doesn't quit the team, that's because he did what he was asked to do and he went through the workouts and he's probably dropped 20, 30 pounds. And if he does all that, I think you'd have a really, really good guard. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be curious if they take that approach. It sounds mean and maybe a little too old school for where we are right now, but I would, because and I think you've heard the same thing with Clemson and Jackson Carman is, they loved him up and got the signing day announcement, but I don't think Jackson Carman was treated that well at Clemson his first 6 months on campus. And it turned out to be a very good thing for him as he got his body in shape and turned into a second round pick who's starting now for a playoff team in the NFL. So I think that's got to be your approach with Tegra. Is that's probably to an extent some of your approach with true freshmen anyway, is to get these guys to realize how this is not going to be easy. But I would be especially hard on Tegra because I do think the potential is there to be a fantastic guard. He's just got to fulfill it.
Yeah, in shape, maybe he's Wyatt Davis.
Yeah.
And out of shape, he's going to transfer. So that's why I said to me, he's make or break. And the thing is, I think he's a really good kid. I really
No
like
question.
Tegra. As a person, I think he's a great kid, great family, and I really like him. I want him to get it. I really do. And we've seen kids over the years that when we want it for them more than they want it, they usually don't make it. So, like you say, make or break. Be hard on him. Be tough on him. If he takes it, is a man about it, and does what you ask him to do, he's going to play 10 years in the NFL. So, like I say, to me, he's a make or break kid. And because I like him so much, I hope he makes it.
I do too. He's such a nice kid. So I think, I think this is going to be a big first 6 months for him to see, okay, this is what it's going to be like. Are you ready for it? Because if he is, again, I think he's going to be a really good player. All right. We got 2 roundtable things I want to shoot around the horn here before we call it quits. I will have Kevin go first on this one, then Bill, I'll go last, and then I'll reverse that order, I guess, for the second thing. But first thing, there is a target left in 2022. Christian Miller, top 100 defensive tackle, 4-star defensive tackle. Kevin, we'll let you go first because you did the interview in San Antonio, and you've interviewed Christian a few times. So where do we see that one? And I know we have to do this. We cannot dance around this. Does he sign with Ohio State in February? Yes or no? There's no maybe here. He's in or out.
Well, I did have the opportunity to talk to him. He was in a leg brace on his right leg. He said that he would be taking that brace off, and a smaller brace would be going on the next week. He'd be back to working out, lifting weights here pretty soon. Now he's focused on recruiting. He has visits to Oregon, Florida A&M, and then Miami. Nobody likes recruiting more than Kristen Miller. I mean, honestly, he could replace any of us in terms of this because he enjoys recruiting so much, but maybe it's only his own recruitment that he enjoys. I talked to Kojo Antwi, another player out of the state of Georgia, who said, "Oh, don't worry, we got this." But then again, every kid believes that everybody's going to go to the same school as them when that's what, the narrative is. I don't think Kristen knows where Kristen is going. We had him penciled in at SC. We had him penciled in at UGA. Can UGA take him at this point? I don't, at some point, there is a cap of how many guys you can get. I mean, especially at a position. He wore the Ohio State shorts. He's been throwing out the Ohio State edits, which leads us to believe that Ohio State probably trails for him, unless he's so good at this that he's playing the double bluff. And with the double bluff, that means I know that you think I'm bluffing, so I'm going to just tell you the truth because that's ultimately the biggest bluff. And if there's anybody that could rock the double bluff, it's Kristen Miller. So I'm going to be in the minority amongst recruiting guys, and I'm going to say he signs with Ohio State. And I say that with a 0.5 confidence level out of a scale of 1 to 10 because I'm not confident at all, but somebody's got to pick him, so I will.
Bill, are we getting Andre Walkered here?
Yeah. Andre Walker, big time Glenville kid that a week before signing day, when we all knew he was going to Ohio State, because all the Glenville kids go to Ohio State, and he pulls me aside in the hallway at Glenville, away from everyone, even though no one was around, but he pulled me off to the side like it was a CIA meeting, and I was going to get some nuclear secrets, and he tells me, bro, you're my guy. You're my guy. I'm telling you right now, just so you know, you can look good. Don't quote me on this, but I'm going to USC. I'm like, Andre, you're going to Ohio State. We all know you're going to Ohio State. Don't be Marcus Hall with me. Come on, man. I know. Just shut up. You're going to Ohio State, bro. It's USC. I'm telling you. So I knew that was a head fake, but no, he was actually telling me the truth. He did sign with USC, and no way did I even hint that I thought he was going to USC, even though he told me he was going to USC. So Kevin, I get it, man. I get it with Kristen Miller. I was told that Georgia will take Kristen Miller. I was told there's room. How there's room for him, I don't know. I think he'd be their 6th D lineman. I was told there's room. So I'm going to go with Georgia here, only because I think they'll take him and they want him. But hey, it could be Florida A&M. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised. I won't be surprised if he doesn't sign. This will be the saddest thing. It's usually the highlight of a kid's career when they sign their letter of intent. This will be one of the saddest days of Kristen Miller's life to actually have to sign that letter to where nobody will call him anymore to do interviews and he won't be able to fool anyone to where he's going. Maybe he waits. Maybe he waits it out and doesn't sign till May or something to keep this game going. But there'll be tears in his eyes when he actually has to sign this thing and he has to reveal where he's going. That's going to be a very sad day for this young man. But I'm going with Georgia.
Yeah, I'm saying out right now. I think the environment has evolved to where there is a chance for Ohio State. I think we know that Larry Johnson's returning. That's what I've got right now is Larry Johnson's returning. I think that would have been a deal breaker if Larry Johnson would announce a retirement or something like that. I think that'd be a deal breaker. But I do think he's going to Georgia. I've kind of heard similar to you, Bill, in that everyone I've talked to believes that he's got, look, if they didn't have room, they'd stop recruiting him.
Yes. Yes.
Like
they're pushing for him.
Because we keep hearing about Texas A&M with Amari Abor. I'm like, Texas A&M's hasn't been recruiting Amari Abor. I mean, maybe there's been some text exchange a little bit, but Texas A&M has almost taken themselves out of the Amari Abor sweepstakes. And so there'd be no reason for Georgia not to do the same thing with Kristen Miller. So I believe there's room. Man, Kevin's got a point with the double bluff. Like this kid would do it. I think when push comes to shove, against Georgia. But hey, maybe again, I could also see what you said, Bill, with the delay. Maybe I don't know. Is he going to be on the spring game visitor list for Ohio State or something? Show up in April and do one more round of visits in April before he decides on like May
Good.
1st.
He
I
could.
could see
He
that
could
too.
do that.
God, I
Will
hope
Ohio
so.
State wear Hawaiian shirts, JT Tuimoloau style, when he kind of like
Yes.
flies in for a
Yes.
visit or something like that? He
They
probably
got the, like
sees that and is like,
little like some like peaches embroidered onto their polos or something for
I'll
the
get
peach
in
state.
touch with
Yeah, I don't
Tommy
know what they're gonna
Bahama
do.
right now to see if
Yeah,
something like that's in the works.
yeah, exactly. Maybe we should make them and sell them. There we go. All right. Okay, so that'll about wrap up the Kristen Miller talk. But we have one more thing I want to talk about, and I can't really take full credit for this because we were recording the coach reaction podcast, and I think Bill alluded to it again in this episode of Tony Alford really getting the Cedric Hawkins commitment. And that's why they were able to get a defensive back to commit to them with basically zero confirmed defensive back coaches on the staff at that point. So it kind of took me down a path. So Brian Hartline every year is in the race for National Recruiter of the Year. He's definitely won it at least one time. They probably haven't announced. I don't think they've announced this year's yet, right? That's usually like a February thing with the recruiting sites, as they announce the recruiters of the
Right.
year.
Right.
So he may win it again. I don't know, but he's already won at least once. Larry Johnson, when I was at Rivals, and they would do like the top 25 recruiters, and I was always get a call. Who are the Ohio State? Larry Johnson was almost always a guy I would cast a vote for. And once again, I think this year, even if they don't get Christian Miller, Larry Johnson's going to be on those types of lists, given what he signed this year. And obviously, should have been on any, certainly hope he was on any list last year as well with what he signed with Tuimoloau and Tyleik Williams and Jack Sawyer and those guys. So we know who the rock stars are on each side of the ball for Ohio State, but Tony Alford continues to fly under the radar. I don't know that he's ever won a Recruiter of the Year award. I don't think he has. I think one time he got onto the list at Rivals when I was there. It might have been the J.K. Dobbins year. He's a guy I'd bring up, and he would do good things in Florida, but it just never kind of got like the award type stuff. I think he's setting up to maybe even more than Hartline or even Larry Johnson. I think he's setting up to possibly be a Recruiter of the Year candidate for 2023. And I know that is a completely absurd statement 13 months before that's probably going to be voted on and announced by any of the recruiting websites. But if we look at what's going on here, Tony Alford he's the primary on Cedric Hawkins. He's the primary on Richard Young, which will be one of the biggest recruiting battles of the entire cycle. Like whoever wins the Richard Young battle, that coach will automatically get some juice on these recruiting lists. I think Ohio State leads for Richard Young. I think Alabama is going to be the big competition there. So he's got that. He is, at least for the time being, I mean, he was kind of the secondary, but he's now kind of the de facto primary on Troy Bowles until Ohio State sort of figures out who's going to take that one over, as Al Washington will not be back. He probably isn't technically
Kirkland.
I was going to say he's probably not technically the primary on Peyton Kirkland, but God knows if you talk to Peyton Kirkland or anyone else about that situation, Tony Alford seems to come up, more than Greg Stadwara was. So he's got that going for him. Is Tony Alford going to win Coach of the Year in or Recruiter of the Year in 2023? Or what are his chances? I mean, we'll throw that to Bill because you were just down in Florida. I mean, is this setting up to be that type of haul for Tony Alford? Is he going to start to get some pub for what he's doing this year?
Well, the guys you mentioned, yeah, absolutely. He's in on those. And then as this thing evolves and Cormani McLean goes back to Florida after he visits in March, you're going to see my guess is you're going to see one of the DBs coaches take over as primary. And Tony could be primary there. We'll see. Tony will at least be secondary there. And Cormani's going to be top 5 overall in America. So if Ohio State lands him, Tony gets some run there, and then they're going to take 2 running backs in this class. So if he pops Richard Young and then he goes and busts another big time running back, yeah, he's definitely in the mix. I mean, just with the guys we had named before, and then you throw in, he throws a hand in on Cormani McLean, and he's going to get a second running back. Heck yeah. I mean, you have to consider him, no doubt about it. And like I say, from talking to Cedric Hawkins about Tony Alford the other day, I mean, that was pretty eye opening the way a safety would talk about a running back coach. It's just something you just don't see a lot of it, through recruiting. It usually ends up being that position coach ends up being your daddy, or it's the head coach going after some 5-star kid. But just the way Ced talked about Tony Alford was really eye opening to me.
Yeah, Kevin, your thoughts on that? Is he going to be in the running? And I guess on maybe a smaller scale, is he at least positioned to maybe have the best recruiting cycle of anyone on the Ohio State staff?
Well, I think let's answer those in reverse order. In terms of the Ohio State staff, Brian Hartline's always going to get mentioned there. I mean, how big is that receiver class going to be? I mean, Carnell Tate. I mean, who else? I mean, if they're able to land Brandon Inniss, I mean, you end up putting that in both of the columns of both Alford and of Hartline. And so much of the recruiter of the year, there's not like a statistical numerical formula that really goes into it. Uh, I was at Rivals at the same time Marc was, and we would be asked who we think should be there, and they didn't necessarily always take the information we gave them at face value. But if we didn't mention a guy, I don't think the guy would get a lot of publicity. Rivals isn't the only organization that puts that out there. So I think that some of it is going to be a result of, what kind of buzz that they get. But, as for the Ohio State side of things, yeah, absolutely. If they're able to go into the state of Florida, Miami with a new coach, FSU still kind of crummy, the Gators with a new coach, and they're able to go in and, I mean, obviously have to battle UGA, who's a team that recruits that state so well. If they're able to go in and win a lot of these battles and pull a lot of kids out of there, I don't know how you don't, how he, one, isn't the top recruiter for Ohio State, and two, I don't know how you keep him off the list, at least in terms of being maybe the Big Ten recruiter of the year. As for national, sure, why not? I mean, I know this, and I've told the story before over on the Ask the Insiders board. I had the opportunity to go down and see Richard Young at Lehigh Acres and talk to his coach, and his coach Tony Alford could do no wrong in the eyes of his coach. I mean, I think that high school coach is ready for Tony Alford to go get his own program. Ohio State's had to kind of sweat it out with Colorado State before that job's come open a couple of times. I don't think that there's any reason why Ohio State fans have to worry about there being at least any forces within that team pushing him anywhere other than Ohio State, because I think that there's a strong affinity for the Buckeye program.
Yeah, he's very well respected down there. He recruited one of their guys. I'm blanking on the name, but he recruited one of their guys several years ago. Ended up at when Tony was at Notre Dame, and the kid ended up at LSU. So he didn't land the kid, but I guess it's just he kept up with those coaches. We're several years now between targets, and it's one of those things where I think a lot of coaches would, okay, I didn't get your guy, let me know when you get another guy and I'll start talking to you again at that point. And, whatever happens in between. But, Tony builds real relationships with these high school coaches. And despite not having recruited one of their players in several years, he had kept up with them. And that's a big thing when you're recruiting these high schools. Are they going to push Richard Young to Ohio State? No, but they're definitely not going to push him against Ohio State. I mean, that's really what you're working for, is like, it's not so much that you need them to push him to Ohio State. It's that you just need to make sure that you don't have the forces working against you down there. And they're very pro Tony Alford at that school, all those coaches there. So again, he builds real relationships. We've been going down there on Southern Swing for freaking years. And every coach we talk to in Central Florida has good things to say about Tony Alford. And this feels like the year where it could all come together, where they they get a bunch of kids from Central Florida. And I guess I include, and I'm sorry, I'm probably offending people that are from Florida. Like, well, Fort Myers isn't Central Florida. Okay. Let's just, let's talk about the rest of the state, not from non-Broward and Dade County. Okay. From north of that, or whatever. I think Fort Myers is north of Fort Lauderdale. Get out on a map. But, from Gulf Coast side and then Orlando and up, Tony Alford has a lot of irons in the fire there, and they're in good shape for several of them.
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree. I'm not Bill, who's down there all the time, who has more of a finger on the pulse of the state. But going through there on a southern swing last year through Orlando, through that I-4 corridor, a lot of great talk about him there. Obviously on the Gulf Coast side, Lehigh Acres with Richard Young. I mean, just we learned very quickly just to start talking about Tony Alford. That was our in with anybody, because that when you did that, it's like, oh yeah, I love Coach Alford and so on, and then just go.
No, I agree. It's gonna be an interesting cycle to follow. So we'll see. Brian Hartline, Larry Johnson, I'm sure we'll have something to say about it as far as the staff. Justin Fry is going to have a good opportunity. A lot of these new guys are going to have opportunities to kind of make their mark. So we will see what happens. I will obviously be posting some recruiting insight here on the site the next few days. I'm sure Bill will continue to be doing that as well. Did a great job in Florida. But we're going to sign off now. Like I said, BuckeyeScoop.com for all your written recruiting insight. YouTube.com/BuckeyeScoop for the morning show and everything else our guys are doing right now. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.